Welcome to episode 203 of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South. On today's episode, we recap week 7 in college football. You can find the show on our website, SaturdayDownSouth.com, and Apple and Spotify. Don't forget to join us for the live recording of the show every Sunday at 8 Eastern Time, just like tonight on the Saturday Down South YouTube page. Go share with your friends. We're looking to expand the pod. You guys have done a great job of sharing already, but we want to continue to go up the charts in Cambodia. Find clips from the show on Twitter at SatDownSouth and at SatFB Uncensored. On Instagram and TikTok, that's at Saturday Down South. And YouTube, Saturday Down South. And now, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South. I'm your host, Tyler Huck, and with me, as always, my co-host, Chris Marler. Chris, week 7 in the books.
We're halfway through.
We are.
That sucks.
Kind of sad. I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Anyway, saw some puppies that didn't get adopted this weekend. Is that better? Is that a better way to keep? I'm kidding. Let's bring the mood up since I've already managed to bring it down. That's not a real puppy story, by the way. Okay. Week 7 is in the books. I felt like it was a really good weekend for like the 4th weekend in a row. And it was also like a very satisfying weekend, I feel like, for a lot of football fans. Colorado lost. USC got smoked.
That Colorado game, sir.
Not good. Not good. Plenty of places to start. I mean, like all the games for the most part felt like they were really good. I will tell you about my meltdown with Bama. Absolutely spiraled out of control. Just spiraled out of control.
Bama or you or both?
Both. So like, okay. I'll just tell it now. I was up in Johns Creek. I was in Alpharetta or Atlanta for the past like week and a half. And I was watching games with my best friend, Jeff, who I've brought up on the podcast several times. And like, this team just isn't good enough to smoke anybody, it seems. And for whatever reason, after they got their foot up, or their foot like on someone's throat, up 24-6, they decided to just not press down. Big fan of pressing down in that situation. So There's like a 3rd and 8 where like somebody's face mask got hooked with the other player's face mask. It got called a penalty as a face mask, even though like their face mask literally just like conjoined. And then 2 plays later, they scored. And while that happened, just magically, 2 of Jeff's wedding photos, which was rude enough, fell off the wall and hit me right on top of the head. Cut my head open. It was awful.
Why were you so close to the wall?
I mean, I was on the couch. The couch was like next to the wall. You know what? That's not the first question. Are you okay, Chris? Did you make it through it? No, I had a full-on meltdown. Anyway, that was my weekend.
Yeah, that was a little butt clenching time. I did tune in because Florida State was a kind of a runaway in the 4th quarter, and I was like, this seems. I'm not going to text Chris. I'm just gonna let this play out.
Yeah, we don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but I will say that figuring out a way to get a false start penalty on a victory formation taking of the knee is something I've never fucking seen before in my entire life. That being said, where should we start? Like, do you want to start on Friday night? Also, welcome in, everybody. Let us know in the comments what games we should go to. Good to see Krista kissing your back. And we can kind of go from there. I feel like it makes sense to start with the Colorado stuff because it happened on Friday. And then maybe a little bit of Brock Bowers talk.
Yeah. I haven't seen much on that yet. It looked pretty bad. Obviously, he came out of the game, which when you're playing Vandy, that's probably going to happen. But it'll be interesting to see. Have you seen anything on the severity of that?
He said he was probably going to sit the rest of the year and get ready for the draft. So it hasn't been official yet, but like that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah. You're just trying to make everybody sad.
1,000%.
Okay, yeah. No news, but look, I guess we could start there then. Potentially, if he has to start, like I guess Florida's kind of sneaky. Like that was kind of a crazy game that we'll get to. But you don't want Brock Bowers sitting out any games. I mean, he's the crux of the offense. The offense is starting to get there, but it's been a lot because of him just catching everything that's thrown at him.
Right. Especially the last 3 games.
Right. So that was another bet. That was one of your lone bets that didn't hit. Or did you not go full game?
I went first quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't take that one, but I did go 8-2 in my picks, and we are still on absolute fire. So, all right, let me ask you this right off the bat, because we're not going to talk about Georgia Vandy, even though I got blamed, and I'll take the blame for it. The jinx that I may be responsible for, because I tweeted out on Tuesday, and it went everywhere, that Georgia had not allowed a touchdown to Vanderbilt in the last 5 years.
Vantage 5 years. Opening tutty.
Opening drive, like a minute and a half in, just some like white kid, like on a slant route, just gone. I mean, Georgia, they started slow again. They struggled a little bit. They turnovers. The defense, like, they didn't give up a ton of yards, but they gave up like, I think it was like 219, right? Which is almost the amount that Vandy had in the last 2 games before this combined against them. So improvements for Vandy, but like they gave it up on 43 plays. So it was one of their higher like yards per play allowed of the season, which isn't great. A lot of fans were griping about that. I don't think it's a huge deal. You're getting into the bye week. You're undefeated. You're still number 1. My question for you, how far can the team go without Bowers?
I mean, I was impressed with Mizzou this weekend. We'll get to that game as well.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think that there's a ton until you get to the championship game, SEC championship game. Like, if you didn't have Bowers, you couldn't find a way to win the game. That being said, I mean, judging on our voicemails and some of the stuff I saw on Twitter, I think people are equally frustrated with the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, when you lose what we've kind of deemed as the best overall player in college football, or I have at least, yeah, it's a big loss, and I think especially if he's out, for the season, which I don't think that he is. I mean, it looked like an ankle. I'm not a doctor. Yeah. Really, where that would obviously affect you the most is the SEC championship game. You're either going to have to keep score pace to pace with LSU, which not too many teams can do, or you're going to face a really tough Alabama defense. Probably that's most likely scenario. So in that game, I think that would be a huge, huge, huge loss for them.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think they're fine. I mean, it couldn't come at a better time. Like you get a bye week, and it's a sprain. And like, if there's one thing about Bowers too, it's like there's a reason why he's a favorite amongst everyone, not just because he's a great player, but like he's a gritty. I'm not just saying this because of his complexion.
Really quick.
He's a super hard worker, and he's played through injuries before. And I think they're going to be fine. Like, I think they can beat Florida without Brock Bowers. And I tell you what, this is scary to say, especially with how good he is. But taking him away, there may not be a position unit on that roster and on that team that is deeper than Georgia tight ends. I will say they also have a decent amount of injuries they're trying to get past there. But again, I think they're fine. They get the bye week, rest up, Florida, and then really like the month of November, you have a home game against Ole Miss. I mean, maybe I think they'll be able to score on Ole Miss's defense regardless, and then you have the game against Tennessee. So like, I'm looking at it from the fact of, and I don't think Kirby would do this because he wants to win every game, but you can afford to lose a game if you're Georgia to like Ole Miss, right? Like, you want to go beat Florida, you can afford to lose to Ole Miss. So if you have to sit them out, you can, and then go to Knoxville and win that game because you just need to make sure you're undefeated in the division to get to Atlanta. I think they're fine. I think they're completely fine.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I guess with the division thing, I was thinking it would probably be a better loss to go on the road and lose to Tennessee, but then you'd have to have Tennessee also lose twice in division.
Right.
So yeah, no, you need that's the must win. Yeah, you're right. I don't know if they could get in automatically with a loss. There's still a lot of good undefeated teams.
There really are. I don't want to over exaggerate or be dramatic about where we are, like prisoner of the moment, but it does feel like a much different year than like again, like people compared to 2007, but it's not like that, revolving door of like South Florida being number 2, Rutgers being number 2. Like there are some really legitimate teams that are at the top. And like, you saw today with the AP poll, like Oregon didn't really drop really after the loss to Washington. I think that says a lot about both teams.
Right.
And teams will start to separate themselves, but
yeah. Willie Gray makes a point in the chat. Tennessee lost to Florida, so they wouldn't have to lose twice in division, I guess. But the point still remains.
No, if Georgia lost, like if Tennessee wins out to that
they'd
game,
have to lose
Georgia,
one more. They'd have to. I was thinking Tennessee would have to lose 2 more in division games. Yeah, they would just have to lose another one, which isn't likely.
All right, math is not our strong suit, but you want to talk about some numbers
with Georgia? Yeah. Oh. I mean, let's just talk about the fact that they had 100%, 99.9%.
That's fossil, baby.
Are you showing your watch?
That's a fossil watch, baby.
They had 100%, 99.9% win probability at one point in the game. I mean, looks like about play 100, there was 210 total.
Well, one thing about Stanford is they are a really good team, and they have been on a hot streak as of late. And they were going to contend either way.
They ran 100 plays, Stanford did.
How?
And Colorado ran 92.
Jesus. This was like, we're going to talk about it because it's Colorado and it's Deion Sanders. Yeah. I don't know how they blew this game. I don't. You're up 29-0. And I didn't watch the third quarter because I was watching some, I don't know, like either a murder doc or Friday Night Lights. But it was like they scored 19 points in the third quarter, which I feel like Stanford is not a team that puts up points like at all.
No.
And to go put up 19 alone in the receiver, like we talked a lot about Travis Hunter and how great he is, and he's a really, really good football player, but he got embarrassed by that receiver.
Yeah, on the defensive side, he was a beast at receiver.
Yeah.
13 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he got absolutely smoked in the end zone. And he had the spinny to do little guy. But yeah, especially that last catch. It wasn't just that last catch where he got completely mossed and just got kind of dragged by his head into the end zone. But just pretty much, I mean, the kid that he was on had almost 300 yards receiving, 290.
That has to be more than any other player on that team for the entire season.
Yeah, just unbelievable. 3 touchdowns, 13 catches, just dominated. Travis, I mean, look, he's coming off of a spleen injury?
I think he got lacerated.
Spleen.
No, I don't think it was a spleen. I think it was some other body part that I don't know where it would be located.
So there's a little bit of an excuse. Probably came back a little too early. Lacerated spleen or whatever was lacerated seems tough. But
tell us in the comments what was lacerated.
I don't think I've ever seen, like, even as a Falcons fan. I've never seen someone come back from 29 points in a game, especially in 2 quarters.
That part is pretty crazy. The fact that it was in 2 quarters. I'm sure it's happened, but I mean, this was like, there were some crazy endings in general this weekend, like the Houston West Virginia game. Colorado State scored like 21 points in the last 4 minutes to win. It was a liver. Someone else said it was a spleen. Well, either way, I think my biggest takeaway from this was I was a little bit surprised with Deion and his press conference, because the comments he made about asking the kids like if they like the sport or love the sport, it just kind of caught me off guard. I don't think it was good, bad, or indifferent. It just kind of caught me off guard. The thing that stood out the most to me with this game is, and he's a really good quarterback. He's way better than I thought he would be. Way better than I thought he would be. But Shedeur Sanders' lack of maturity in general, I think, like, I'm not saying cost him this game, but there were moments in this game where he lacked focus and seemed like he was out there doing like whatever the fuck he wanted to do. Like, that interception was inexcusable. It made no sense.
How about putting a post out on Instagram at halftime, like selling his gear?
Maybe it was a scheduled post, but that is, I will say this, that was I was barely offended by that at all. I feel like that's something that like a lot of people were probably pissed about, but he could not have captured like that moment any better. Like he could not have capitalized on that. Like they were up 29-0. He was balling out. Like, so good for him. The whole thing is so weird. I've seen like a lot of people comment about how like, people kind of piling on because Dion makes them uncomfortable. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the fact that like the media overblew the shit out of this, just like the Travis Kelce and T Swift thing and like everything else. And people got tired of hearing about it. And like, again, they're a good story. They're a really fun story. And they weren't even supposed to get to 4 wins.
The SNL skit last night was pretty funny.
That was pretty good. What makes you think? But no, I will say that like Shadir Sanders, I think at this point in the season, it's time to start judging Colorado based off of how we would judge other teams. And like, I feel like they're kind of a team that gets not a free pass, but we talk about them in a different light and in a different way than we do other teams because it's fun and it's exciting. And like, there's like this built-in thing. It's almost like Kentucky with Mark Stoops. It's like, well, they're not supposed to be here yet. They're not supposed to be that good. But this was a very winnable game. Like, obviously not even just because the score, like Stanford's awful. So I was like pretty disappointed in that in general, but anyway, let's get some of the good games. There were a lot of good games this weekend.
Where do you want to start?
Somebody in the comments told us where to start. I like that somebody brought up Mizzou. I don't think we should start with that.
Okay.
Why don't we start with this? Why don't we start with where'd it go? Where's Washington and Oregon? Did you delete it?
No, I didn't delete it. It wasn't there the other day either when I was on there.
It absolutely was. You want to start there?
Yeah, man. What a game. I think it lived up to the hype in terms of just being back and forth. I mean, there's people questioning landing on the 4th down calls. Penix, dude, I mean, right now that kid's going to – there's a lot of season to play out, but he's clearly the Heisman front runner at this point.
Did you see the odds?
Yeah, he's the only minus odds, right?
It's like plus 100, so it's even money.
Yeah. I mean, look, what a game. It was back and forth. At one point, I was convinced Oregon was going to win. Don't know really how. I still think Oregon's a really good team. Defensively, I was impressed with Washington. I thought that would be the one unit on the field that would struggle the most.
Yeah.
I was impressed. It seemed like they could run the rock a little bit better than they had all season. They definitely came to play. I'll probably bet against them in the next game. I don't even know who they play unless they're on a bye.
Washington?
Yeah.
I can look it up.
Just because they put a lot into that game. Penix was like clearly just super emotional after the game. I thought that was cool, but they put a lot into that game. And dude, they might be the best team in the country. Maybe. They can look pretty good.
I was surprised that I wasn't surprised that Oregon didn't drop after this. I was very surprised that Washington didn't go up higher because I thought I thought both teams were really, really, really impressive. Really, really, really impressive. And it was a hell of a game. It was a hell of a game. Now there were some mistakes that I was kind of shocked by. Basically the main thing that everyone was talking about, especially going into the end of the game, because Oregon comes back down. I think they were down 11, right? They come back in, they get ahead in the 4th. They're ahead by 4. I think it was 33-29. And they have the ball. And I think there's maybe 2 minutes left or something like that. And they're around midfield. And they were moving the chains. They were moving the chains and like they had for a lot of the day. Both teams, really. And at one point, they get down to 3rd and 3. And I didn't like the play call on 3rd and 3. First off, because it didn't really signify to me okay, this is what we're going to run because we know we're going for 4th. We're going for on 4th. I was very confused with what their plan was there, I guess. So then they come back on 4th and 3. It's around midfield. I didn't think the decision was bad to try and go for it. Bo Nix was playing lights out. I mean, he was 80% completion percentage. He's a kid that's an 8th-year senior, leads the country in completion percentage. If you're Oregon, you should be able to get 3 yards, and they've been a really aggressive team all year. Now, obviously, they didn't get it, and Washington scores in 2 plays. But I don't think that, I don't think that was the bad move. What I did think was a ridiculously dumb move was when they had the ball at the end of the first half, and this is what like played out just like it played out, I think, with Jimbo last week. I think it was like against Bama, and there was some other game too where it's like you're in field goal range. You're in field goal range. I think they had the ball inside like the 10-yard line on the 6. And instead of just kicking the field goal down 22-18 to pull within 1, they go for it. They roll out right, ball goes like sails to the end zone. They come away with no points. And then you find yourself at the end of the game down 3, having to like go the length of the field to try and tie it up. I just don't understand why we're getting that aggressive in spots that don't really need to be. If it's 4th and 1 and there's, a couple minutes left in the second or third or whatever, and you're on your 45, like I understand analytics, all that kind of stuff. This made no sense to me. In games like this, especially, you got to get points.
Yeah, no, I think there are coaches. Norvell did the same thing in our game this week. A lot of people are getting mad about just take points, especially when your offense is kind of getting clogged up. It's just like, but Lanning actually did say after the game that was his one regret out of all the 4th down moves that they made was the not taking the points. So he would agree with you there.
Yeah,
he said that was a mistake.
I will also say that like I didn't come away looking at either team, either coach, either quarterback with like, and a lot of times this is what happens, especially with social media, is like, oh, this team's a fraud. This guy sucks. Like he didn't, because he lost this game. Both teams, I might be even more impressed by both of them. Like Oregon going on the road to a very hostile environment and playing that was a really, really tough 60 minutes of football. It was more physical than I thought it would be.
They played great. They didn't turn the ball over. And Washington did twice. Not a lot of sacks generated by either team. But I still think both these teams are 2 of the best, 5-6 teams in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was I was glad the game lived up to the hype. I thought it legitimized what's going on in the Pac-12 right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, where are we going next? We got a bunch to choose from.
Let's go to last night's game.
Oh yeah,
USC.
I like this one.
Caleb Williams. It's been a while since I.
You just cut out. You're muted, dummy. I'll intro it. I like this game. It says you're muted in the bottom left. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
This game was confusing to me. Not confusing to me because I thought Notre Dame would win. I honestly thought the line was like kind of maybe it was like fool's gold because it being only 3 with them at home, and we've seen USC struggle. What I was not prepared for was to see Caleb Williams struggle that badly.
Yeah.
And then that defense be that bad. Because now you start looking at these other games. Notre Dame struggled to put up points against Ohio State, who's a very good defense. They struggled to put up points against Duke. Like, they didn't struggle at all to put up points against USC at all.
Every time I flipped over to the game or was catching that, it seemed like Notre Dame was just streaking down the field.
Yeah.
They had the kickoff return. Like anytime USC tried to get momentum, like Notre Dame was just right there to score again, whether it was on a kickoff return, on offense. What I was saying when I was muted is I don't think I've seen Caleb Williams look that like frazzled.
Yeah.
Since he was like a freshman when he came in and replaced Rattler. I think he had like a weird game against Kansas maybe or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's like the last time I saw him look that bad. I mean, he was running for his life the whole game.
I mean, he was running for his life the whole game, and he never looked like he settled down. Like his like usually like pretty. You look at Bo Nix yesterday and some of these other quarterbacks, like they look like very calm at all times. Even Joe Milton, like very calm in the pocket, like getting the play call in. He looked like erratic and like very, very all over the place. Like every time I saw him.
7 turnovers for USC in this game.
What's that?
7 turnovers.
Well, that probably okay. That's
4 fumbles lost, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe the 28 points wasn't that bad, but it kind of was because it never felt like it was really close. Like, and I'll tell you the other thing is too, like when you're a team like USC, this is why a lot of people were waiting on this because USC is not Georgia or Oregon or like Washington or Ohio State. Like, there's not a lot of games where they have to show up. They can just go put up like 48, 50 something points and win, no matter how bad the defense is. There's rarely do they have like a spot, I feel like, where they are on a national stage and have to like go out there and like be better in all three phases of the game or two of the three.
Right.
Like, and they fell flat on their face. And it was embarrassing primarily because I'm like, I hate to pile on with it, I guess, but like Lincoln Riley in big games has just been, my God.
This might have been the worst I've seen. 7 turnovers. I mean, they had. Am I reading this right? That Notre Dame only had 255 yards of offense.
Yeah, it's actually 251.
Jeez.
No, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, it is 251. Yeah,
I mean,
and like, and they got a short
insane.
field to work with every single. Like, it seemed like every single time they had the ball.
Yeah, USC had 300 yards of offense. The biggest thing is they only had 4.4 yards per play in their passing game, which you don't see that with USC. You don't see that on those Oklahoma teams that Riley had. It was just a horrible night overall for them. And I think that pretty much people were already skeptical. I think this pretty much closes the narrative on USC at all.
Right.
So out of Washington, I don't know if you have access to their schedule real quick, but out of Washington, Oregon, do they play both of those? One of those? I know they play Utah, right?
Oh, yeah, they're about to get into like the thick of it. By the way, when you look at like the ranked teams they've played in the past 2 years that are Power 5 opponents, they got blown out in this one. They lost their last two last year, and then they only had 2 wins. So they're 2-3 in their last 5 games against ranked opponents that are ranked Power 5 opponents, and the 2 wins were by 3 points apiece.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not good. They have Utah, and remember they don't get a bye week during any of this. Utah at Cal, Washington at home, at Oregon, and then UCLA. So, and the Pac-12 this year they're not doing divisions, right? So it's just the top 2 teams. But we said this before the season started that I really thought this was going to be the 3rd best team in the Pac-12 because they're just so flawed. And what we're seeing now is like everyone talked about Lincoln Riley going out to USC, how it was going to be this thing where they were going to score a bazillion points, and he had Caleb Williams. They're going to bring all these, transfer portal guys, and like they were going to restore greatness and all that kind of stuff. Well, the problem is like the greatness and like the great teams and the little dynasty that USC enjoyed, like in the early 2000s, which was a dynasty, and they were one of the most dominant teams they were the most dominant program in the country for 3 to 4 years. And what was different though is like then you had guys like Aaron Rodgers. You might have had a couple of like ranked games against, I don't know, Notre Dame and Brady Quinn. But the teams in your conference are not built like these teams are built. They're not built like Utah. They're not built like Oregon where they can play defense. Yeah. And it's, I think it's going to really, really hinder them.
Yeah. And they're they'll go to the Big Ten now where they'll just be more of that. And they're going to have to change their philosophy in recruiting. Just in general, they got to focus more on defense, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Lincoln Riley seems to be offended that media questions why their defense is so bad.
I don't understand how that guy's still employed. I don't understand how that guy's still employed. It's like, anyway, whatever. Yeah, I think they are probably done for the year because even if they somehow get through that schedule, I don't see them managing like a win in the Pac-12 championship. Now, I will tell you this: they have a very good chance of ruining someone's season.
Oh, for sure. Because they're going to be written off after this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I agree. They still have a good offense. I mean, you can't win a game turning the ball 7 times. It's just
all right, let's go to the SEC. Let's go to this real quick.
Okay.
Just for Krista, since she's here, and then we'll go to Mizzou, Kentucky. There's not a lot to talk about in this one. No. LSU looks really, really good. The offense sputtered a couple of times, but not enough for it to matter even remotely. Was really impressed. Jaden Daniels continues to be one of the best players in the country. I thought it was really impressive that like LSU, I've been saying this for like the last week or two, they're a team that like people are going to somehow forget a little bit about. Like they're not going to take them seriously. Like they'll see the numbers they put up and Jaden Daniels and all that kind of stuff. And then in about 3 to 4 weeks, it's going to hit everyone collectively that, oh shit, like they can still contend for something. They're dangerous, man.
They, they just need a little improvement on defense. I mean, this was a good start. I ended up sneaking in a bet before the game, team total 26.5 under for Auburn. And
that's insane that it was even that high.
Yeah. So they really outperformed on defense what at least Vegas thought would happen. Yeah, man. I mean, dude, the craziest thing, like, and that game quickly became second screen, kind of, I was real into the Miami UNC and the USC game. But I just glanced over and I see Jaden Daniels just kind of take off, couldn't find anything downfield, and the dude just glides down the field. It's crazy, man. He's so good. Like I never thought he would be this good. Like, because he was at Arizona State, granted he was young, but he was just kind of like, even at his first game at LSU, I remember when Florida State played him, it just felt like he was real tentative to go down the field. He would scramble, and he was an elite runner when he would scramble, but that was like their whole offense.
Right.
And he's just putting up massive numbers, man. Good for him.
Yeah, I
need to be more in the Heisman conversation.
He's got to be solidified. That's one of the reasons I was so surprised that Penix was at like plus 100.
Did you see the game day with
Desmond Howard?
God, what are we doing?
Unbelievable. That's coming from me. I was offended. Not offended, you know what I mean? Yeah, by the way, so this is in the last, like, you take out the Grambling game, all right? This is the numbers he's putting up. 418 versus Auburn, 389 versus Mizzou, 513 versus Ole Miss. That's a ranked game. Florida State, 410, and Mississippi State, 425. I mean, he's right around 400-something yards a game of total offense by himself. And the thing that's crazy, too, is he's not like – that offense goes as he goes. But, like, there's still weapons there. Like, the whole offense isn't just him. Like, he just makes it go. One of the things that I thought was the biggest sham out of this entire game was it was an 11.5-point spread. The 6.5 in the first half I thought was a joke. And Auburn, I understand, coming off a bye week, they played Georgia close. And, like, I understand the series is close. 6 of the last 7 were by 5 points or fewer and all that kind of stuff. That being said, like, one of the things I kept hearing over and over and over again was, well, do you think LSU – or do you think Auburn has a chance to beat LSU and upset them because that LSU defense is so bad? Yeah, well, the Auburn offense is arguably worse. Yeah. And there's some positives because we're trying to do optimistic October. And they threw for over 100 yards against a Power 5 team for the first time in their last 6 games. They threw for like a whopping like 150-something, and that was with both quarterbacks combined. That's the only – and I don't even know if that's a positive you could take away from that because, like, the defense – I know what the score says. They got beat by 30. The defense can only do so much. I thought Auburn's run game was decent. Really confused why Jarquez Hunter is not involved more like in the offense. He's clearly the best offensive player you have. And then the quarterback situation is – this is my question to you. Peyton Thorne, 12-23 for 102 yards, a 26.7 QBR, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Robbie Ashford, 3 of 4 for 52 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Thorne also had 27 yards rushing, and Ashford had 19. They were never going to win this game, but there's a lot of unrest with the Auburn fans right now of whether or not they should make a move at quarterback because the offense just isn't doing anything with Peyton Thorne. They're just not, unless it's like that big chunk play against Georgia early on, like, and maybe a couple of other, I can't even think of like any other ones. Like, there's just the offense is so stagnant and uninspiring and like very like non-creative, which is what I thought I was going to get most from Hugh Freeze. Would you make a move and bring in Ashford?
I don't think either one of these guys. Well, I know Peyton Thorne won't be, but I don't think either one's going to be quarterback next year. And it depends on what you're trying to play for this year. Are you just trying to instill the look? What's going to happen this offseason is they're bringing in a really talented true freshman, and they're also probably going to hit the portal hard and try to replace both these guys. So to me, maybe you sneak a win out more if you get Ashford in there, but we've also seen Ashford play. Like, do you think it's going to be that much better?
I think at this point, he's sparked a few things. He's the one. I know they got a turnover deep in Georgia territory, but he's the one that got that touchdown in the second half there. He looked okay at times last year against like Bama. Like he had a couple of nice passes. I just think at this point, like I think you're in a very critical situation if you're Auburn because, and I'm talking about long term. And Freeze has been very, very like consistent with saying like, hey, this is not an overnight thing. This is not going to be an overnight thing. And you're looking about halfway through the season, you're 3-3, and all the losses are teams you probably thought you were going to lose to. Georgia, at LSU, what was the other one? A&M on the road. The concern for me is there's not really any progress being made, not just with like the quarterback play, but the play calling, the designs, like any sort of momentum on offense. And I wouldn't say it's inconsistent because it's just consistently not doing anything. But like you just said, if you don't go to the portal, your move is we're going to bring in this true freshman, Walker White, who's very talented. If you bring him in, like, I don't know if you put all your eggs in that basket, for one. But like now you're talking about a true freshman quarterback. And we've seen this before. We saw it with Bo Nix. Like, if you put all your eggs in that basket, like now you're talking about probably like 3 years until you're really competing at the level you want to, unless this freshman quarterback is, like lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, no, they'll hit the portal and they'll get like a Sam Hartman type older guy that's going to be there for a year that is looking to get to a bigger school. I can't think of a name off the top of my head, but it'll be somebody like that. Would be my guess. Yeah, I know the Brock Vandegrift rumors have been there for a long time.
Well, that was just me starting them, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, but I was really impressed with LSU, and I feel like this will be one of those things that goes back and forth each week, where I try to convince myself which team is actually going to win the SEC West. But I really like LSU, man. Really like where they're at. All right, where do I go next?
Let's go to Missouri, Kentucky.
Whoop whoop.
Dude, Missouri. Good on you.
Yeah.
That was awesome, man. They took care of business. That not a good look for Stoops coming off that press conference.
Yeah. There's a lot of not good looks for Stoops in this game.
This one's not on NIL. Like, yeah, they've got Luther Burden. Like, he probably got a big NIL package, but Missouri's not chock full of talent that they went out and bought. And he got smoked at home.
Well, and now, like, peel it back a little bit. Like, not only did you get smoked at home, you got put away late, and it looked like you got, like, I wouldn't say gave up, but, like, I watched this game from start to finish.
Dude, they had a 90% win percentage at one point, like, in the second quarter.
So we watched this game, and Jeff's a Mizzou guy, and like, they struggle. They haven't beaten Kentucky in Kentucky in like, I think like 9 or 10 years. Like they've been owned, like lost like 7 of the last 8, and it's always like in heartbreaking fashion. Brady Cook comes in the game injured, and the game started about as badly as it could have for Mizzou. They had no identity on offense, like no like idea what they were trying to do. Really, really bad like start for them on offense and defense, really. Like, I mean, Kentucky was moving the ball at will. They had like 154 yards of offense, I think, in their first 2 drives. And they came out, went up 14-0, and forced Mizzou to punt. And in one of the weirdest, most ridiculous plays play calls and trick plays, whatever you want to call it, I've seen in a long time. Their punter, down 14-0 from the right hash on like 4th and 9, throws just a go route to the gunner on punt teams, and the guy catches it and scores. And it was And I think at that point, Brady Cook was 1 of 6 or something like that in the game. So it was a massive, massive play for Mizzou to get something going. But what was shocking was if you're Kentucky, you're at home and you're still up 7. And like Mizzou hasn't done anything, like, and they have not been able to stop you at all. And what ends up happening is their next 6 drives, I think they had 16 plays for 8 yards total.
I mean, the Devin Leary transfer has been nothing short of a disaster. I don't know. Like, Devin Leary was really good at one point. I don't know what's happened.
I've sang his praises all offseason. I thought he was going to be awesome. And Liam Cohen's there, and you returned your top 5 pass catchers from a year ago. And the run game that we thought might be stagnant or like not non-existent, but like taking a step back because you lost Chris Rodriguez, you have the leading rusher in the entire conference. But that team is there was not a lot of things about Kentucky that I liked.
No. It's going to be a rough end of the season for them.
Well, I mean, the schedule's not that bad, but they do get Tennessee next week. They have Bama at home. I think there's something else too, but like
not that bad, huh?
I mean, like they could still get to 8 wins. Like they have 5 wins already.
Which I know they've dominated Louisville, but Louisville is pretty good this year. Although that was they lost to Pitt this weekend.
I don't know how that happened. I don't get it. I don't get that at all. No, I just this is different than like we talked about with like LSU or USC. Obviously, those teams are different in general, but like I don't know if Kentucky. I think Kentucky is like a chalk team. Like I don't think that they are good enough to go upset anybody they shouldn't upset, and they didn't do a lot like that. I didn't enjoy watching this brand of Kentucky football. They didn't run the ball super well. They were super chippy and like constantly talking shit, which is I was just surprised. I mean, it was super chippy. And the other thing is too, you had so many breaks go your way and you did nothing with it. Like not like, the 14-0 start, right? And then there were things like there was one point where there was like a horse collar they didn't call because he wasn't outside the tackle box, which I didn't even know that was a rule. Like I feel like I learned a new rule every year in this rivalry, and it's always benefiting Kentucky. But like outside of their defensive line play, there wasn't anything that was like super inspiring. Like the receivers didn't make a lot of tough catches, and they just faded. It was like they completely lost confidence or focus or whatever. But it was not. I just didn't enjoy. Like this is not what I see from a Mark Stoops team ever.
Yeah, it's something doesn't seem right, especially coming off that floor. Like you come off that dominating Florida win, and then you just go get embarrassed 2 weeks straight.
Embarrassed.
And like, let's be honest, like we all got back on Georgia after that game, and then they went back out and kind of did the same shit they've been doing all season.
What do you mean?
Vandy. Like it felt like Georgia finally started figuring it out collectively, but the offense and defense against Kentucky. And it's like, okay, there's the Georgia we've been waiting for. And then they just kind of sleptwalk through the Vandy game.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can talk about that in a second. I will say, like finishing up with this game, the thing that is concerning again for Kentucky and also makes you feel better for Mizzou. This is a Mizzou team that was banged up, man. Luther Burden got hurt at one point during the game. He didn't really even get going at any point. They could not get him going. The running back is either hurt or just I don't know. He looks like a 28-year-old in semi-professional football. Like it is, there's no burst. Like it's not great. He did have like a big touchdown at the end. Was that?
You're talking about Cody Schrader?
Yeah.
Well, he was injured coming into the game. But
and you still had him run for whatever he like a huge dagger and nail in the coffin touchdown run at the end. And again, Brady Cook was injured. Like there was an interception at one point that Leary threw that was overturned, and it was the right call. It was overturned, and then he threw another one. Like I want to say 2 or 3 plays later. Like it wasn't like they didn't have opportunities to win this game when they were up, down, tied, or whatever. And I think it says a lot about like the amount of missed opportunities they didn't take advantage of. And if you're Mizzou, you're like, somebody just asked in the comments, can they go 8-4 or better this year? I don't think they're going to beat Georgia because it's on the road, right? But like they have one loss, and it's to arguably the best offense in the country. And it came down to, I know it's a 10-point loss, but it's because of a last-second pick six. Like,
and they were up 10 in that game.
They were
right?
up 15.
15, yeah, 15, right.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think there's a lot that, like, I don't know, 8-4. Let me look at the schedule real quick, because there's still, like, obviously several games they haven't played yet. They have South Carolina, and this is like the thing Mizzou has to avoid at all costs. Don't lose to South Carolina. But
No, you
6-1,
can't.
you're already bowl eligible.
Are they playing them next week?
Yeah, at home. And then a week off at Georgia.
I love Mizzou in that spot. South Carolina's got to be reeling.
They're awful. The week off, then at Georgia, Tennessee at home, Florida at home, and then at Arkansas. So 8 wins, I think, is doable, because I think they will beat South Carolina, and I think they'll definitely beat Arkansas, and they might jump up and get on one of those other teams too.
Yeah, no, but good for Drinkwitz. I mean, I felt like coming into the season, it was kind of like you better have a pretty decent season this year, because what is this, year 4?
Yep, and they just gave him that extension and all those resources.
That line, by the way, right now is 6.5 for Missouri at home against South Carolina.
All right, where are we going next?
Want to go to that Florida game?
Yeah, let's talk about this for a second. Do we have any voicemails?
We do. There was 1 Florida, 1 Bama, and then the rest Georgia.
Oh, we should play those for sure.
Just
all
now.
Right. This game, I admittedly missed part of it. This is in a bad spot because it was like at 3:30 with the Washington Oregon game, and then also the, what do you call it? I was also kind of confused why it was a 3:30 start, because usually that's the 4:00 start. And it was up against Tennessee and Texas A&M as well. An incredible game from both sides. I got a couple of questions for you that I'll get to in a second. Right off the bat,
it was the sleep, the Wednesday night sleep that was tracked. Did you hear about the Napier before this game? He was like, "We're gonna be different. We're gonna be tracking sleep on Wednesday, making sure we get great sleep going into the game. We're gonna do different travel. I think maybe they went up a day earlier or something like that. And hey, all the road woes for Billy Napier are now gone.
I don't know about that, but I will also say huge win. A huge win for them. And also in a spot, like, not only where they've struggled, but like, if you would have told me, hey, Carolina's going to score 39 points, I would have 1,000% told you that Florida was in big trouble, because I don't think that offense could have kept a pace with them. But
right from the jump, I told you that Graham Mertz threw for 423 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
The 423 yards was what was mainly surprising. And then I would have been shocked if somebody told me that he was going to throw the ball almost 50 times. He threw the ball 48 times against Carolina. And I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense also, because that's what Mississippi State did with Will Rogers, obviously. And like, their secondary has been really, really bad. But this was a game where it wasn't like Carolina. Like, I mean, Spencer Rattler has just been phenomenal. Like, all season long, he had 360 yards. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, everything you could ask from him. Shocked that Carolina was able to stuff Florida's run game so much.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, you tell me South Carolina scores that many points and Trevor Etienne has 51 yards, Montrell Johnson has 68, 1 touchdown between them. I would have been like, they must have just absolutely destroyed Florida.
Right.
And yet Mertz, and feels like just guard Ricky Pearsall probably at some point, somebody.
Dude. Well, and also there were some other things too that were bad luck for Carolina. Like, there was one play late in the 4th where they had like a I don't know what down it was. There was a pass that went off one guy's hands and just fell directly into the lap of the other receiver. Yeah, they kept the drive going. But yeah, this is also one of those things. This is the thing that concerns me the most out of South Carolina is, I think that under Beamer, they're a team that's going to be they're better than Arkansas in the terms of they're going to be able to pull off a big win and get a big upset. And like, you saw it last year with Clemson. They can be good enough and have a game plan good enough and rally the troops with like the talent they have, and how scrappy they can be in all 3 phases with that quarterback and also with Beamer. They can go win a game that they're not supposed to win but they're not supposed to win every year. What they can't do is win on a consistent basis week to week. And that's the thing that's most concerning, because it's like, you're at home, they're 2-4, which is not even that far or different than what I think the expectations would have been for them at this point. Like the ceiling would be 4-2, right? Like, I don't think anybody thought they were going to go 5-1 or on some crazy run to start the year. But this is a game that you should have won. This is a game that was kind of tailored for you to win, and you just find new ways to lose, and it's the fan base is pretty frustrated.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, do you think Beamer stops with all the kind of off the field TikToks and all that?
I think part of that is what he's trying to build there, or that's just how he is, and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it's really good, and it's a long off season, and I don't think about any of that.
But fans they're not gonna love that shit if you're losing 7 games a year.
It's a very easy, low hanging fruit thing to
Yeah.
point at and be like, if you stop making TikToks and do this, and
Right.
And the bottom line is this is always going to be an uphill climb for Carolina.
Yeah.
But it's sad to see the level of haplessness this team continues to have. It up front, they the fact that Nick Harbor and I don't know that much about it. I don't know why he's been off the field for most of the year. I'm sure there's a reason, because he's a 5-star that's 6'5", 240 and runs a 10-1 100-yard dash. The fact that he has 2 receptions for 52 yards all year, he had 1 for 45 on Saturday. The fact that he's not involved at all, that's stuff I don't get. Why are we not? You're trotting out Luke Doty and Dak Joyner, your former quarterback room, all on the field at once. What happened? Why is this kid not being utilized? Because it's not like you need to throw the towel in, but something's got to change. Something absolutely has to change. And the defense, and he ripped the defense in the post game, which is what I was going to ask you about your thoughts on. He's been kind of under scrutiny lately of, is he too whiny and bitchy and blamey after games and after losses? What are your thoughts on that?
He does kind of come off that way. I mean, I'm sure he's frustrated. By the way, on the Harbor thing, that's also the kind of thing that you see the kid hit the portal after the season in this day and age.
Yeah. Especially if Rattler's gone.
Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they play that situation out the rest of the year. If you're Beamer, I mean, look, I didn't hear the press conference, but you just got to take accountability. That's what a lot of these coaches, they just, you go back to Mario last week, with the whole kneel down situation. First thing he does is well, we teach 2 hands on the ball, and it's
that's
shit.
Come
on, man, just take ownership and let's figure out what's going on here. But yeah, the trench play is concerning, and they've done a good job. I know in the 2024 class they have 2 highly ranked O linemen coming in, but you can't just get dominated every game on the line of scrimmage. You have no chance at that point.
That's again, and we'll go on to the next game here real quick. But that was
we had a call from this game. It's a long one, but it's our Florida resident, so we can play it.
Hey guys, it's the Florida resident. Before I address the events of this evening, let me start off by saying, Tyler, I appreciate that beautiful soliloquy that you have here with the beautiful explanation of everything that's going on. Now, with that being said, let's fucking go! Listen, we might lose every fucking game the rest of this season. And I'm not saying that shit's a real serious possibility. But damn it, let me live for one fucking week. Start on them hoes. Merch. Shit. I am fucking excited. I don't know how you say that right now. Excited. Merch should have got that touchdown pass. I did something stupid and bought everybody at the bar a fucking shot. I shouldn't have did that, but damn it, I needed everybody to be happy with me. Nothing against South Carolina fans. Hey, I love y'all. Big hug. Not really.
Big hugs.
Because goddamn, we sure made Spencer Rattler look like the first round draft pick tonight. But I just wish I could rewind all of the tapes of everybody talking about how bad Mertz was going to be. Now, granted, I am not saying Mertz is a Heisman contender. I don't want to come off as that, no, because he definitely is not. He is definitely the check down champion. He is shit. He's the check down champion. But between him and Billy Napier stop throwing fucking hitches, damn it, we gotta win on the road. This is huge. We might, like I said, we might lose every other game, but that's all right. I hope you guys have a great rest of the night. I hope the rest of the night. Hey, and also the Washington-Oregon game was amazing. Gee, I was watching that and listening to the Florida game on the radio. That game was amazing as well. But I hope everybody's team won today. If your team didn't win today, well, that shit happens. But yeah, this is Florida Resident. Hope everybody has a good one. And yes, I'm sauced up. I'm gonna holler at y'all later.
It's just not a show without our Florida Resident.
I love that so much. That was awesome.
That's what college football is all about.
I've never heard him that happy.
Me either. Always very sad.
Amazing. Yeah. Anyway, the last thing I was gonna say is this: like the thing with Carolina. One of the things I looked at, the first thing I looked at when Rattler was transferring, because I knew they had the skill positions, but like, what difference was he gonna see at South Carolina versus OU besides the competition he was gonna face? Because he's played better against the better competition, seemingly in the SEC. But I remember looking at these numbers, and it was like Oklahoma had 11 offensive line recruits that were 4 stars or higher on that roster when he left. And I think Carolina had 1 or 2 at most. And it shows like recruiting stars on everything, but they have got to focus on shoring up that because then otherwise what you're gonna have is like you're gonna waste this kind of like once in a decade type season he's having a quarterback, be like on a 2-4 season right now. Anyway, where are we going next? Let's go here.
Let's go. Okay, yeah. Before we talk about it, I want to give a quick shout out. This is just a total random game, but I saw the score and I was flabbergasted. Arizona, 44-6 over Washington State at Washington State. This is coming off the heels of nearly beating USC. And this kid, Noah Fafita, who's been the backup to Jaden Delora, is like killing it, 342 yards. So just want to shout out them because I like they've been a terrible program, and it seems like they're competing and they beat the shit out of Washington State.
Beat the shit out of them
in Washington State. So
yeah,
shout out Wildcats.
That was shocking. Yeah, there was a couple of good Pac-12 games, like per usual. All right, let's talk about this one real quick because this was one of the bigger games going into the weekend. A&M and Tennessee. Now, I was watching this game. I picked A&M to win outright. I thought this was a weird line, even though because I thought they were tougher up front. And this was I wasn't surprised because I thought it was a really good football game. It was a very, very good football game. Classic, like mid-2000s type, like SEC football game. Very physical. Yep. Quarterback play was not great. Just not great. No. A&M on the road, everything that is – anytime there's going to be a loss to A&M, like no matter what, there's going to be a lynch mob coming for Jimbo Fisher because of how crazy high his contract is. And I understand that part of being frustrated about like how high the contract is. I will also tell A&M fans that like it wasn't like somebody signed an executive order and just gave him that. Like y'all wanted it because of what happened in 2021. There was no reason to do it, and you gave it to him. Now, I will tell you right now that I know that you hate Jimbo. We give him a hard time. I still say even with like what they looked like in the current record, I don't think that he deserves to be fired right now or be on that much of a hot seat because you look at the losses. You're in a 1-score game against Tennessee on the road against a ranked team. You lost against a ranked Miami team on the road. You lost against a Bama team that is Bama, right? And ranked like you weren't favored to win any of those games besides the Miami game. it wasn't like you had some slip up where you like lost to Mississippi State like they did in 2021. It wasn't like you had some like weird thing at the end of the season like you've seen at times where like they looked, completely helpless. Your starting quarterback's out. And I'm not trying to make it an excuse for it, but Max Johnson was awful in this game. The offensive line was terrible. Credit to Tennessee, they got after his ass all day. But this was also kind of the other side, like some of the stuff that Jimbo's come under scrutiny for, which is like, why didn't he go for it on 4th and 1 against Bama? Why didn't he do this? Then you see in this game where he goes for it on 4th and 1, and Max Johnson gets stepped on by his lineman, by his center. Like there was another play where I think it was like 4th down where he went for it, or maybe it was 3rd down early in the first half, and as he's dropping back, his own like right tackle or whatever gets pushed into him and knocks him down. Like it was like an assisted sack, and it was all day. He was being harassed all day. And this is another good point from Aaron Haggard. Like on top of that, the question that you have to ask is who would they get that's better than Jimbo? I don't want to spend the entire game segment like trying to save Jimbo's job or anything like that. But I do think that if we're being reasonable in this situation, he's lost his starting quarterback again, which has happened multiple times. And now Haynes King, maybe he shouldn't have been a starter, but like he was the starting quarterback 2 years ago. You lost him. You've lost Connor Wegman, a former 5-star, both of them former 5-stars. It hasn't been easy on him. What were your thoughts on this game?
I mean, it was kind of an ugly game. I mean, but like you said, both quarterbacks were horrible. Max Johnson was better than Joe Milton was.
I don't know about that.
Well, 8.33 yards per play for Max Johnson versus 5.42. In the passing game, on passing plays, Tennessee averaged 3.68 yards per play.
That's unbelievable.
Here's a surprise. I think someone said in the chat. Tennessee ran all over A&M.
Yeah.
253 rush yards, 5.62 yards per play. And that's the game right there. I mean, Tennessee, you got to give credit to their defense. Although, shit, man, another 12 tackles for loss for A&M's defense, another 3 sacks. They have an incredible D line, and I just think if you've got that kind of talent, I know that he's got a quarterback that's down, but I just feel like you got to then do a better job of recruiting a quarterback room that can sustain something like that.
That I disagree with. Like, I think losing a starting quarterback for anyone is very difficult. Like Ohio State was able to do it one year and like contend and win a national championship, but like that's just I think we take that for granted because we've seen stuff like Stetson Bennett come in as like the backup and then become the starter. We've seen Tua with Jalen and that kind of stuff, but like that is not a very common thing that you just have like a stable of quarterbacks and then have to come in that situation. Like, I mean, like,
how many people have backups that are Max Johnson? I mean, he's a pretty decent backup.
Yeah. And like, here's the other thing too, is where does the blame fall with the offense right now? Because he's not calling the plays.
Yeah. I can't wait till if it keeps going south, there's going to be some comments made. I feel like at some point about the offense, and then Jimbo's gonna be like, "Well, y'all wanted me to hire on an OC? Here we go. I'm not calling."
Dude, if they get 2 more losses,
yeah, dude.
You know that's what's coming.
I'm selfishly rooting for that. I'm not trying to be mean, but it would be funny.
Yeah, no, it actually would be. Yeah, I don't know. I thought
on defense, man, and they had a good defensive performance because Tennessee didn't they get a return for one of their touchdowns?
They got a punt return for a touchdown, and kind of shifting gears because like
their offense scored 13 points.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like you're right, and that's not what we're used to seeing with Heupel. But what I was really impressed with Tennessee, and I know that I am a person that is not a fan of Tennessee, and I like, we spent a lot of time talking about A&M, and I will hate Tennessee all week because they're playing Bama. But what I was most impressed with Tennessee was they did a lot of stuff that got in their own way. Tons of penalties in this game. Same crew, by the way, or actually no, it wasn't the same crew, but they each had 10 plus penalties in the game. Milton, like when they got a drive late in the game where they probably could have put it away, just completely doesn't see it, like the safety throws a pick right in his hands as they're driving like in the red zone. Inexcusable, can't happen. That was concerning. There's still no accuracy. He was 11 of 22 for 100 yards. This is twice now that we've talked about in the offseason where it's like he can throw it 90 yards and he's into the game with around 90 yards total passing, which is impossible. But what I was impressed with was despite that, like it took a while for them to get the run game going. They won this game in other phases where it's like you pin someone deep, you got stopped and didn't go for it on fourth, so you had to punt, and you pinned A&M down on the half-inch line and then gave up nothing. They almost got a pick six down there, and the defense was relentless. The fans were relentless. The crowd was awesome. The atmosphere was great. And then you got a punt return for a touchdown. And like that's honestly, that's the kind of stuff that like I'm not saying they're an elite team because they're not, but that's the kind of stuff that elite teams do is figure out a way to stay in it, and then score in like a different phase of the game. I was really impressed with them.
Yeah, no, the defense stepping up for Tennessee is big because, and to Willie Gray's point in the chat, I mean, if Nico comes in and gives you some spark on offense, you're talking about a much more dangerous team. Okay,
I mean,
you don't want to go that far.
No, I don't think that's a.
All right, I want to go here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because the score was not indicative of what happened in that second half to Miami. I was impressed with Miami coming out because I was like, man, it felt like you were gonna know pretty early if Miami was over what happened last week.
Yeah.
And they were up 3 at half, and Drake May didn't have the best of nights. The kid's got a cannon. I like watching him play, but
yeah.
Then just the second half was just dominated by UNC. Got to give a shout out to Tez Walker.
Dude.
That dude's a beast, man. It sucks that he hasn't been able to play all year, but he's incredible. 3 touchdowns in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And Miami put on some late points to kind of make it more interesting as far as the spread was concerned. But man, you got to, again, no one's been talking about UNC, and here we are. They're coming out here. They're still undefeated. They add Tez Walker to what was already a really good offense.
Yep.
And their defense played really well in the second half of this game. I mean, Miami couldn't do anything.
Turned the corner with them.
So I personally am terrified to play UNC in the ACC championship because I think if that's the way it ends up as a Florida State fan, because Drake May, like anytime you got to go against Drake May, you know they're going to be putting up points. The dude, he's really good. I mean, he's really good at running too. Like he was juking out Miami guys. Like this team's legit, man.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I was thinking about this. We'll do this on the next show and like kind of do like a mid-season show where like kind of look at some things where we were right, where we were wrong, whatever. But one of the things I think I was like wrongest about this season before the season started was Jaden Daniels for one, and not necessarily Drake May, but like I just didn't think UNC was legit because I didn't think anything of them. Like they lost Phil Longo, and they've only gotten better, and they've done a really good job in the portal. And you know, Mac Brown has kind of been forgotten because he's so old, right? He's still got some fire in him. You saw that Yelp review he gave the NCAA.
Anytime they show him on a night game, like it's fourth quarter, I'm like, dude, he wishes he was asleep right now. Like
1,000%. 1,000%. Can you give me a half calf? Just give me like a mug of half calf.
Maybe some more milk.
He's been really good at. They're very well coached. He's hit the portal. He's adapted to like stuff like Dabo or teams like Clemson and Dabo haven't. Very impressed with Tez Washington. I thought that was awesome. Tez Walker, I mean. And there's a game in a couple weeks where UNC plays Duke, and I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but I'm going to be a prisoner of the moment. And I think that's probably the best game of the year in the ACC.
Could be. Florida State's got Duke next weekend. Oh my God. I'm a little nervous about it.
Yeah, you should be. Duke's good, man.
Yeah, dude, they haven't had their baller QB. They just beat NC State 24-3 last night. Like,
yeah,
their defense is legit.
They're 1 2-minute drill away from being undefeated. Yep. Yeah, I was impressed with them. All right, I think we're missing a game, but we don't have to talk about it. This was exactly what I thought would happen. Those last 2 games, I felt like I was pretty spot on about. I thought it would be a close game, maybe early, and then the home team would pull away. The UNC obviously pulled away from Miami. And in this game, like I was shocked that the line was 3. Again, another one of these things I was like, is this fool's gold? Because you're going to Corvallis against a very good Oregon State team. And the one time we've seen Dante Moore at quarterback for UCLA, like on the road, he was really bad against Utah. And, you know, we really put Utah and the defense up on a pedestal, but Oregon State beat Utah, like, and beat them soundly. And so I was really impressed with this. They gave up a decent amount of running yards. They gave up like almost 300 yards rushing, but they put the clamps down when they had to. The offense was really good. They still very, very fun to watch. The atmosphere was great. And now Oregon State is right behind Bama at 12, and it's deserved. I mean, like, it's a really good team, man. Really good team. And really my preseason pick to win the Pac-12, and they're not done yet. So you never know.
All right. So is the last game Bama?
We don't have to talk about Bama. It was against Arkansas. I will like we can what
happened in that game? And I'm legitimately asking because it was on at the same time as the Florida State game, and my second screen unfortunately had to be on a Halloween movie for my daughter, so couldn't watch the Bama game. What happened? I saw the KJ Jefferson play, which was awesome,
crazy, really good.
But why was it so close?
So it wasn't for most of the game. It was 24-6. Bama like kind of sputtered a little bit early, not really bad. By the way, Arkansas's kicker is fucking ridiculous. he hit like a 48 and like a 55 yarder, and they both would have been good from like 70. Like blown away. I said all week though, if we're gonna talk about this, like I said all week, this every single like box that you check for a trap game, this was it. You're coming off a big emotional road win against A&M. You have a big rivalry game that's a revenge game next week at home against Tennessee. You're kind of getting back in contention. It makes sense to look ahead. You're a 19.5-point favorite over a team. You put them away late last year, but that was a 5-point game in the third or fourth quarter. It was a 1-score game the year before in Tuscaloosa, and it was an 11 a.m. start. Like all of the makings for a trap game. And
it's one of those where you just try to get out there with a victory.
Well, and they got up early, and they were up, I think, 21-6, something like that at the half. Milroe started out not super great, but then they had a bust. I don't think it was a busted coverage. It was actually a pretty well designed play. He hit like somebody wide open for like a 79-yard touchdown. And at half, he was like 7 of 10 for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. And when they came back from the second half, the defense was like lights out. Arkansas did nothing. Like Arkansas did nothing for like most of the second and third quarter at all. And like Bama just started kind of like playing around, like playing with their food a little bit. And it just was like the play calling was like different. Like they were throwing the ball deep a bunch. And Milroe, like, it was, you know, the offensive line is still really bad. They gave up 4 sacks. They actually gave up 5 sacks, Tyler. They gave up 4 to one player. It is the 6th or 7th straight game where they've given up 4 sacks in a game. That is the most of any team in consecutive games in like FBS in the last 20 years.
Jeez.
It's like historically bad. And then you start having a couple of things like focus issues where you're not, you know, you have a couple of drops, you have a couple of like slightly overthrown balls, and then Arkansas and KJ Jefferson, who are very, very dangerous, like they were in the game. And so they had one drive, scored, then Bama, like, you know, still I think they were like 24-11 or something stupid. I don't know. 24-13, and got another 3 and out with just and Arkansas went right back down the field. And then you saw the play with like KJ Jefferson. There was a couple of things like that. So again, optimistic October. This was a game that Bama had to get a drive and win because they were like Arkansas didn't gain a first down from the like I don't know 6 minutes into the first quarter till 1 minute in the third, like 1 minute left in the third. Didn't gain a first down, like did nothing, and you still found a way to let them back in. And for whatever reason, like, you know, they were able to run the ball effectively at some times, but they kept in their offense, and like multiple times, like on 2nd and 3rd and 8, when in the game where you're trying to run clock, they threw the ball. And Milrow, to his credit, completed it. But it's still a team that like you had 6 penalties, you had a bunch of like pre-snap penalties, you had a false start, Tyler, on a victory formation taking a knee. I don't know how that's possible. And Jermaine Burton,
it's kind of funny.
It was on him, and he after the game, like they win by 3 against unranked 2-5 Arkansas, and Burton, as they take the knee, is like talking shit to all the players, talking shit to their sideline, like just refuses to do anything likable.
That guy sucks.
He sucks.
Pretty good football, though.
It's like a Mount Rushmore of the worst people on my television. Him, that dickhead general or whatever from the Patriot, the British guy with the ponytail, that guy was the worst. There's probably some other ones I could think of. But those two are like top 2 in the power rankings right now.
All right, let's get to our top 5.
Okay.
We're at an hour 15.
Well, do we have more voicemails or not?
We had one for this game.
Okay, because we had to play those anyway. Chris, I was very mad.
What's up, guys? It's Bama Bo here. Just listen to T-Huck's nice little spiel about getting on the pod. Finished up the Bama game. At least we won. Not really sure what to think. I think kind of like Saban summed it up pretty well. Like, we got to learn to play 60 minutes of football. I don't really understand this team at all. Like we've talked this talk of joyless murder ball and being, trying to get back consistent after the Texas loss, and thought we've looked pretty good since then, but just haven't played a complete game. And we look so dominant when we want to be. And I don't understand the level of focus of these guys if it's just not there or what's going on. What are y'all's thoughts on that? And what about some of these just ill-advised penalties that's just absolutely blowing up Saban there at the end of the game? And hell, me too on the couch. I just don't get it. How do you not fix these things in practice? I don't know. Well, at least we got some other good games coming on. Y'all take it easy.
Yeah, we kind of touched on all that. I think I will say we'll get to more of it before this week. One thing I will bring up, remember what Jim Dunaway said on the interview we did with him a couple weeks back, was that he's not saying that, like, Saban hasn't said this is his best team, that they can compete for a national championship or an SEC championship, because I don't know if they can. But it seems like since there's so much to work on, he's got like that fire back. And that defense is still really good. So there's that. All right, let's play. Do we have any good ones from Georgia? And then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, we have UGA ones left. So here's a couple of them.
Hi, y'all. It's Lillian. We are out on the streets of Broadway. And, I don't want to be dramatic, but I am real concerned Georgia's not that good. That game at Vanderbilt today was painful. I don't know if it's our offense. It's for sure partially our defense. Things are a hot mess. I don't know how we beat Kentucky the way we do and then have that game against Vanderbilt. But I'm just going to keep drinking through the season and hope for the best. Good luck out there.
I'm sure she was just out for a lovely dinner.
No, she texted me and said she was going to call the hotline, but she tried to leave a voicemail, but your voicemail was 5 minutes long. I was like, I'm sure it wasn't. I'm absolutely sure it wasn't. She was having herself. It was 11 a.m. kick.
Oh, yeah. In Nashville, dude?
In Nashville.
All right, here's another one.
This ain't no angry fan. This is a dog fan. It's Zach from east of Athens. Just going to say it was just Vanderbilt. We do this shit all the time. Play down to a lesser opponent. I know it's going to be talked about on this show, other show, live TV. I don't care if we even drop in the rankings. Who cares? We are the motherfucking dogs, and we're always going to play up and beat other big teams at big times. Bowers is going to come back healthy, and he'll be dominating per usual. All this whole discrepancy, you know who, what, I don't care. We are the motherfucking dogs, baby. It's kind of rock. Now, just want to say, the playoff time is going to be it for us. Just because one game where we can't play in a shit fucking field, we have players slipping and sliding and tearing shit and hurting shit, and then you got freaking construction going on. That is just unserious as a football school to be doing all that during a game. Come on, you can do that in the off season. It's pathetic. You think the nerds would know better about scheduling time and putting more resources into things. Anyways, just want to say, screw the nerds. Let's go, Dogs. Can't wait to beat the hell out of Florida. Beck's coming back home. Gonna drop 50 points on those sorry losers and Mr. Billy. And Marler. Bama's getting closer to you.
What did he say?
Closer to you. And Florida State will also have a wake-up call.
What
Anyway,
did he say?
Vanderbilt, you guys are great. Just having a shit fucking fill in that shit fucking stadium. Go Dogs!
He was whispering, Bama's getting closer to the end.
What?
He was whispering, Bama's getting closer to the end.
Oh. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, we loved it there. I also love the fact that he said this is unserious as a football school. Well, Vandy's definitely not a football school.
Yeah.
I also love how that entire first minute or two, that was great. Like that was the best call of the week for sure. But the first minute or so was like him like, who cares? We're fine. I don't care. And then by the end of it, he was like, it's a shit fucking school and a shit fucking stadium. Anyway, all right, top 5. Let's do this.
All right. Starting at 5, I'm going to go Florida State.
Okay.
4, I'll go Georgia. 3, Ohio State. 2, Washington. 1, Michigan. I think Michigan, I know they haven't played anybody, but they're just beating the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they're really good. I'm going to put them at number 1. So, yeah, I'll go 1, Michigan. 2, Washington. 3, Ohio State. 4, Georgia. 5, Florida State.
Okay, so I will take hold on, EGA and then FSU. All right, so 1, Washington. I'm going to keep them up there. 2, I'll put Michigan up there. I feel like they have like really, like you said, they've been really impressive in their wins. So I'll keep them up there. 3, Ohio State. Actually, you know what? I'll take Washington at 1, Ohio State at 2, Michigan at 3. I will put how should I do this? I would put Oregon still at 4. And Georgia at FSU at 5. Dogs. There you go.
All right. Is that it?
I guess that's it.
We went long today. We just love football.
We do.
Okay, cool. Well, that's the show, guys. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning in, listening to the show, whether it's live or on pod. It would really help us and the growth of the show if you would rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a review, and we will play the best ones on air. Like and subscribe to the YouTube page. As always, leave a message, call the hotline. We appreciate the ones that called this week, and I didn't get to get all of them. Maybe we'll do a separate segment where we can play some more. But the more you guys call in, give us crazy stuff, the more we'll play. So people are talking about now, I put a little disclaimer on the voicemail. I said, hey, it's Tyler from the pod. By the way, you know, if you're going to use your real name, just know that we're going to potentially put this on social media. So just always be careful what you say.
I don't like that.
You don't like that?
We need more content. We need to start giving away some prizes.
Don't forget to check out the videos and clips from the show at Sat Down South on Twitter, at Saturday Down South on Instagram and TikTok, and at Saturday Down South 1 on YouTube. For Chris, I'm Tyler. Thanks for tuning in. We will talk to you guys on Wednesday for a Week 8 preview. A lot of really good games again this weekend. So we'll see you guys later this week.